Hello, and welcome to Three Questions with MotionPoint. I'm your host, Dominic Ditherbide, and today I have the absolute pleasure of meeting with Fluentic's CTO, Tomi Heiskanen. Tomi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking, Tomi. I'm excited to get our conversation going. So let's just get into it, why don't we?
Sure.
So, question number one. What further advancements do you, as Fluentic CTO, expect or anticipate from AI in the next 10 years?
Well, 10 years is a really long prediction window, given
Yeah,
that
yeah.
OpenAI released ChatGPT 3 only 4 years ago and has already taken a major share of the market, and they are valued just shy of 100 billion USD. In the past, there has been phases of rapid development and then some cooldown periods, but the current explosive growth started from technology enabling inference of large language and really complex models in real time, and some fundamental model architecture innovations. So I would anticipate that development continues during the next years. But given the vast investment in the field, new frameworks and novel inventions will be published. They will likely will be major improvements to the current models, which have many fundamental flaws. For example, the autoregressive models are unable to utilize ground truths in their responses and tend to hallucinate. In 3 to 5 years, AI translations are likely to become a commodity to the users, also in voice channels.
Yeah, so I agree with you. 10 years, maybe that's way too much of a stretch for any of us to predict, right? But, especially for AI translation, I believe like the expectation, and it was almost like an emulsifier to our to the buyers in our industry to really increase trust in AI, where before like machine translation, which is, tangent and it's related to it, but was a little bit, people had more skepticism, right, towards it, and now I believe it's almost like their knee-jerk reaction to solving for these types of translation needs that they have. So what you're saying, that these hallucinations, you believe, are soon to be gone and that it'll be much more commoditized?
It's likely that the hallucinations will be a problem with the current architecture, but as the technology evolves, it's likely that there will be new technologies that solve the issue and
Mm-hmm.
come over that. But in every case, I think it's something that will be utilized anyway, because there are many use cases where the hallucinations are not causing damage. For example, having a summarization of a conversation where you can always check from the original. So in that sense, it's possible that the AI translations will become a greater thing in upcoming years, even though there are some limitations with the current implementations.
Got it. And as these rapid changes happen, what do you suspect users and the consumer will be looking for in translation solutions as AI evolves? Have you thought about that?
Yes, so going forward with the translations, they will become more transparent part of the business processes, that the users might not even acknowledge that there is a translation in the process. Just like it has happened with saving. Nowadays, pretty much all software automatically saves your work in the background to the cloud.
Mm.
Earlier, you needed to manually insert a disk and so on. So in future, users are not actively requesting translations, but rather consume as part of the automated process. I also predict that the AI voice translations will see major growth starting next year.
Mm-hmm.
And in some use cases where the translations has been a middle step before, for a human or information system to process the translated results. The translation step is no longer required, as the end results might be achieved directly with an AI solution, for example, in sentiment analysis or question answering tasks. On the other hand, where the translation is still needed, the fundamental requirements for good translations are unlikely to change. For example, the accuracy of the translation is still going to be an important factor, and in the short term, it might prevent the large adaptation of the LLM translation with the current architecture limitations.
That's interesting. I agree with that. I mean, sometimes, for example, the saving example, right? You're working, you're going through things, and now at this point, you just subconsciously expect that your work is getting saved, that it's working fine, right? And that I believe that's true, and it'll truly scale to almost being unperceivable, right? The fact that these are translations are happening and not so much like in language, the content that's generated originally, content origination in that language. It's a very good take. I hadn't thought about that for sure. Well, let's move on to the third question, which is, as these advancements happen, right, and as translation technology becomes more embedded in our day-to-day and becomes more imperceivable, as you mentioned before, how important is privacy and security going to be in translation technology, but as it pertains specifically to application translation, right? And the reason we ask that is because in our experience, we've seen that the more secure, if it's a login experience, the more technical an online experience is, the more privacy and security is valued. Do you believe that there's going to be any changes, or that AI is going to impact the way people perceive privacy and security in translation technology?
Definitely, to some extent. The EU has been long leading the privacy enforcement, and some companies have run into legal issues with it. For example, OpenAI with Italy's authorities because of the privacy concerns. But in general, the legislation regarding privacy and security is getting stricter every day, and given the large-scale data leaks and the horrifying effects on people, it's going to be a determining factor on adaptation of the new technologies. However, in many cases, translation is already done in a system where it's a single point of failure in terms of security and privacy. In our patented solution, the personal identifiable information is redacted from other processing, and the customers largely expect such protection of PII nowadays. Overall, the use of AI or large language models won't make a big difference in terms of privacy and security, but potential usage of the customer data for the training of the AI is a major factor to consider for everyone, and the accountability for both privacy and security is a key factor in that kind of translation service.
That's a great point. I appreciate that. Well, Tomi, anything else you would like to add to our conversation today?
We are living interesting times. Every day there's a new model coming out from some vendor, and it's hard to keep up, but there's interesting development, and things get better and easier every day, so it's really nice.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I agree with that. It's hard to keep up, especially in our industry. I feel like every time I open, I know Nimsy, Slater, there's a new article, a new press release of a new AI patented approach from our peers in the industry, and that's brilliant. I do think at the end of the day that a rising tide lifts all ships. So as long as we're focused and we take it day by day with a lot of efficiency and being thorough in the way that we implement and also serve our customers and consumers with these new technologies, with our own offerings, that AI in translation is going to be something that benefits everybody. So that's great. Well, that does it for 3 questions with MotionPoint. Until next time, thank you very much for watching.